we have reached a point of no return when it comes to the dating relationship market. It has evolved. It has changed into a new form that we probably never seen before. There was a small period in which the average man had the ability to, let's say, get the woman that he wanted. Although that was a very, very small period of time. It always has been that the man with the resources, the man that is able to provide a lifestyle, provide security, has that element of status and power, is the one that was winning then, winning now, and will always win. That man is currently cleaning up in the dating market. He has access, he has choice, he has the terms, he has the take it or leave it mentality, where the majority of men, especially average men, do not have that capability, unfortunately or fortunately. So, therefore, it is upon you to get yourself to that level of resources because things are not going back. They're only moving forward and in a more aggressive way. Now, we all may think this is unfair, but we've seen it when we were in school. I saw it when I was in school. Now, I was generally a popular kid, especially in the early years of school. But then as things, went on, my status declined because I was restricted from having access to the social events, let's just say. And then once that happened, the confidence depleted, etc. But you could see the ones who had that element of delusion within them, they were propped up by other people. They were seen to be the cool it kid or whatever, in with the it crowd. They were the ones that were cleaning up when it came to the women. And as you see often in some TV shows, you see the bad boy. Why do the girls always go for the bad boy, etc., etc. Now that can be in the early phases of school, and because there are no resources in those environments. Therefore, it is going to be the status that wins out. But as I got into my adulthood and dating apps became apparent, I became more confident in speaking with women. I had no problems in getting play, but I did come to a point where I thought I hit a ceiling, and I was getting girls that, let's just say, I was getting bored by. And I thought, okay, I need to push through for a few new levels, or up to a few new levels, at least one or two, and then it became the point where YouTube was thriving, and there were all these, dating gurus, cold approach, game, etc., etc. And I thought, let me delve in a little bit. Let me try and alter my tactics, see what I can implement to get to that next level. And some of the information was decent. There are some things, don't get me wrong, that you can pick up and you can implement, but in the long run, it's all BS because it keeps you very much in your head a lot of the time. It feels like a hamster wheel. There's always something more that you need to be doing. And yeah, when I was going on dates, basically, I had no problems getting dates. But then converting some of those women that I wanted to potentially date longer and so on, I was almost repelling them. It was like I became a goofball. I was trying to use certain tactics that just weren't working. It was going against my authentic nature. my character. And therefore, when I really, took the situation in introspect and retrospect, all it really comes down to is, yes, being someone of substance, but you have to have that status as well, charisma, but it's down to the resources, and it always has been. I remember back in college when, I would see guys that were rapping the girls, they would have the cars, they would have something about them, that would trigger the chemistry, the attraction in those women. And it wasn't just based on personality. Those guys had access to the greater things that the average man didn't have. And they weren't massive things. Like I said, it would have been just a car at that point of time. It could have been a good car, or, their parents' access to a great parents' house, or, their parents had a massive house, they had the inheritance, whatever it may be. But that form of, and an element of status and resources, it wins out hands down all day, every day. I look at also in those times when I was listening and growing up on R&B music, very emotive, very emotional genre of music. And just like TV shows and movies, it gives you a false sense of romance, dating, relationships across the board. You're getting little snippets of, what it's like, etc. But, we all know that relationships in the long run, and we can base this on divorce rates, etc., breakups of relationships, they're not easy things to fulfill. Very difficult. And increasingly so when you add in, jobs, kids, bills, etc. But we're given this fantasy, this whole indoctrination, which affects not just men, but women also, a false sense of reality. And it keeps you almost trapped in that. But then as you experience relationships, and don't get me wrong, the majority of relationships that I've had, they've been fairly decent. But I'm very much someone that likes his solitude, etc. And I'm going to go into, these things about my perception of relationships in detail in other videos. But for the time being, it is simply that the guy that holds all the cards has the resources. He can provide, like I said, that lifestyle. He has that security. He has that power. And I've even tested, the way things have been going. I've been on mainstream dating apps, and I've tried other alternative apps, read between the lines, where I've seen on the mainstream apps, you're really struggling. It's like a survival jungle, warfare to get the women that you desire. And this could be on an aesthetic basis. Whereas on the alternative apps, they're dishing their number out to you like it's a pizza parlor. And obviously there is an incentive behind that. There's a reason why. But this is what relationships are. They're very much what can I leverage against you, and what they can leverage against you, and what you can provide, and how that pendulum can swing in each other's favor. That's very much it. And we have to get out of the mindset that love will win out. Because in the current dating market, the way things are, it's not. It's simply down to what resources you can provide and what terms and conditions you want to have these relationships under. But don't get me wrong, it's not that things will go swimmingly and perfect. It's just that you have to be in the power position of things, rather than you being in the scarcity aspect of the dynamic